Hey Juventini, welcome back to the All Juvecast, and it's episode 161, and I got my man Lewis joining me. How you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm still riding cloud nine, still coming down from that big win.
There you go. Yeah, man, it was a big one, man. It was a special one to see for a lot of different reasons, and we're gonna tackle it here, and it's nice. It's nice. I think you were due for a good win to cover on the episode, and it's nice to have a trophy to talk about.
Yeah, I mean we've covered the Milan loss, the Lazio draw in the last minute, Porto. It's been a rough year for the two of us. So I'm happy to have a good performance, a good win, and a trophy to recap.
Yeah, and man, I mean, I've been saying for a while. I think I've been saying for past month, maybe even longer. Just buckle up for this ride that we're gonna go on to wrap up the season because, man, it's just the way it's been going. Like anytime we started to feel like we were gaining momentum, we kind of lost it and whatnot, and you'd have to start back at square one. And this season has just been obviously polar opposite to what we're used to expecting from Juventus. And one of the things that we could always bank on them for was the attitude, and that drive, that passion, and that fight. And it's one of the things that's been fading for a few seasons. And this season, man, it was probably the one thing truly lacking, because we did have performance, and this is where the argument kind of in the discussion happens amongst Juventines because, yeah, we dropped a lot of stupid points, but that hunger, that desire wasn't really, it didn't seem like it was there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I never got that real feeling. And when we look at the statistics and you break it down, like, a lot of those losses too, there's probably only a couple that were actually really, really poor performances, but the rest of them, the shots are up, the attempts are up, good scoring chances, the quality chances are up, and guys just aren't, getting the job done or whatnot. But then you look at this last string where it's been do or die, and you see that attitude come out, and I can't help but feel bittersweet about the whole thing because you're like, man, if that was there all season, there's no doubt in my mind we wouldn't be in the position we're at. Would
Yeah,
you agree?
yeah. I mean, there was somebody was saying this week that one of the commentators was saying, like, wait, where was this Juventus? This was the real Juventus, the one that we're accustomed to for the last 9 years. And I agree wholeheartedly. I think that this Scudetto race would have been a lot closer if this mentality was there all year round. It's really gut wrenching to see, but it's also kind of what you expect from a team that's won 9 times in a row. I mean, so even the less experienced players have now won 3 or 4 times in a row. Like you take someone like Bentoncourt, he's won 4 in a row. It's really wild to think about just how dominant this team was for 9 years.
It's incredible, man. And I mean, this is what, the 19th trophy through the 9-year
Yeah,
run? That's insane. It's insane. So what we've witnessed is nothing short of spectacular, and I don't think I'll ever see anything come close to it. Again in my time, whatnot. I hope to, but I wouldn't bank on it. It's truly something incredible, man. Like seriously,
yeah,
the core group of guys, and the more you think about it, and you go back during this run, the quality guys we had, and it's just and I'm as guilty as the next, Juve fan out there of wanting these quality players and whatnot. But what we had are just like some of these guys. It's hard to go out there and find a Chiellini,
yeah,
a Barzagli, a Marquisio, these Vidal and Pogbas that came out of nowhere. It's next to impossible to find a Gigi,
mm-hmm.
who we were blessed with for, and like his entire career practically before he came to us from Parma and whatnot, and spent his 3-4 seasons there, if that, and then came to us a young man and just he's the GOAT, man. He's the GOAT. And that would
Yeah.
make this one so much special, man. Like, so much more special to watch that, man, and see him play in there. And there's another question mark for this season. Should we have went to him more often?
Yeah.
Like, the record with him in there is just speaks for itself, man. You know, everybody could see it and everybody could feel it being different with Gigi in there. And the record holds true.
Yeah.
You know? But man, this was awesome to see, man. Awesome to see, and it was going to be a battle like we expected. You know, what was your feeling going into this this final? Because I know like the sting of that Milan loss was still kind of lingering.
Yeah, I mean, like, you would think that after you beat Murder Milan the way that we did, and I mean that game, I don't know how for the listeners or for you, but that game nearly killed me. Like my heart was just like I felt like I was gonna have a heart attack at the end of the game. Like I really did.
Well, yeah, it was wild. It was just like you're riding a high, and then you're like, oh my god, you just bring it down. Then all of a sudden, frustration kicks in, the anxiety, all that, and then all of a sudden you go, oh, okay, yeah. Brought back down again. You're like, you've got to be kidding me. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, late, and you pull it out, and you're just like, just end. You just end the last, whatever, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. It felt like an eternity, man. You're like, just blow the damn whistle.
I mean,
get out of here. I don't care. Like,
it felt like 5 different games. There's the first half. And then there's when we're down to 10 men, and then there's when they equalized, and then somehow we ended up getting away. All of that game had everything, and for one team that really needed that game, right, which Juventus needed, but for Merda, they won the title. I mean, it felt like an old school Derby d'Italia. Like the Derby d'Italia the last couple of years has been back, and that shows it. And so after that match coming into this one, I just had no energy. Like I leading up to the game, like I was excited, but like I was just so gassed from the last match that like I couldn't rage about anything till like halftime of this match.
That's a fair point, man. I know. I totally feel you on that one. The last one was just such a whirlwind, and it's been do or die for so long that it's just so much emotions in every match.
Yeah.
Right? But it was good, man. Sassuolo, I didn't care how, just get the job done. They got it done against Merda. Move on to the Coppa Italia. Let's try and get a trophy to really pick things up. It's Pirlo's birthday, and there was so much. There was so much going into this that, like, if you couldn't bring it as a player, I'd raise some serious questions. You got Pirlo's birthday. You've got possibly the last opportunity for a trophy for guys like Buffon, Chiellini. You know what I mean? And then just the way the season's gone in general, big momentum shift towards the end and going into the final weekend. That's, again, another do or die. You must win. And yeah, we need a little bit of help, but none of it would matter if you don't get the job done against Bologna. So let's just carry on the momentum. Let's keep the wins going. Get this one done the same as we did against Merida. I don't care how. Just do it. And the crazy thing with this one is that in the previous matches with them, and we covered this kind of in the pre-match to it in the Match Day Live, that it was interesting to see Pirlo not really learn a whole bunch about Atalanta from one match to the next.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you did watch us face other teams multiple times, you could see some changes. And we didn't really get that from the first two against Atalanta. The first one, very undeserved point out of it from Juve.
Yeah.
And the second one, sure, we fell to an unlucky goal off that deflection. But they were still the better side across both games. So I was a little bit nervous about that.
Yeah, I thought that they stomped us in the first one. I thought the second one, they had that late Ronaldo injury right before the match, and I think that just threw a loop into everything, tactically, because then you have to play your 4-4-2 with Dybala and Morata, which you haven't done yet because Paulo had been hurt most of the year. So there was some nerves, though, just because we don't know what Juventus is going to show up from week to week. I mean, it's just Sometimes it's really good. Sometimes it's it's like Benevento or Crotone or like Atalanta, and some of the other games. You never know what you're going to get from this team. So it I can't say I could get nervous anymore because I've come to get used to, hey, like whatever happens. If it's good, it's good. But I'm expecting it to kind of be meh because it's been meh all year.
Yeah.
But I think that there was a little bit of sadness to realize that some of these players, I mean, even, Pirlo, there was that Romano report right before the match saying that he's done. And like, whether you agree or not, Pirlo's a legend. Like,
Yeah.
it was a weird build up to the game for a final, like midweek, coming off of a crazy year and a crazy season. And all the stuff coming into it. It was just weird.
It was, man. This whole season's been weird, because nobody can really make sense of it. It's like they're saying they committed to Pirlo, but all these rumors swirling, you know what I mean? Meetings with Allegri, Zidane becoming available. And again, like people may not put a lot into that, but if you put yourself in Pirlo's shoes while you're trying to do a job that you've never done before, like that just adds to it. You're already in a hot seat. You know what I mean? And now you have to deal with that on top of trying to do this. And it's just really, really strange,
Yeah.
And that's why, like, if it wasn't strictly for the financials of bringing in Pirlo to save a ton of money, then the rest of it doesn't really make sense in how they've acted.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Or maybe this whole time Pirlo knew, and maybe this whole time it was just like a stopgap.
Yeah.
And they're just like, hey, you know what? Like, Iniesta, come in, just do this, and ride out for us. We're gonna, like, eventually you will start with your 23s or whatnot. Maybe that was the plan.
I mean, this documentary on Amazon, I've been saying this for weeks. I can't wait to see it because I just want to know what the fuck went on behind the scenes this year. Like either like if you watch the All or Nothing for Tottenham, they have the thing where they bring Mourinho in and they talk about the plan for this year. I want to see that sit down meeting with Pirlo and the board.
Yeah.
I just want to know like how that transpired.
I know it's the whole thing, man. Honestly, it's gonna be interesting to say the least.
It's gonna win the Academy Award.
To do it.
Like it has everything. Like,
well, it's nice that that it'll have a couple trophy celebrations in there.
Yeah,
and it's nice that these beautiful new kits that the guys were sporting now will have a patch on it. But I want to add another patch to it on the sleeve. Hopefully Sunday, on that Super Serie A Sunday, where it all comes down to. Hopefully we can add the proper one on the right sleeve to go with that Coppa Italia badge. So these kits too, man, we just need the right stripes, man. We just need the clean, classic stripes, and all is good around Juve.
It was back to basics. It looked good on the pitch, and I gotta say it was really emotional to see them send the kit to like all the players that have been a part of the 10-year run. Like I just saw Simone Pepe just open his.
I was thinking, and it's funny that you said that, and I saw your post on that, and I was thinking, wow, Simone Pepe got one. I was like, man, they're really diving deep into sending it to old players.
I love Pepe, so like Pepe will always have a special place in my heart. Like I love that guy, but like it just wild. Like even you look in the stands, like the seeing I tweeted this out, but seeing all the players that were taking their coaching license this year, and then they were all there, like Matri and Del Piero and Rossi. It was just a weird. I think for me, like growing up with that generation and stuff, it was weird to see it all kind of come together. And this is really an end of, a trophy run, an end of a really successful period. It was cool to see that all come together on Wednesday night.
Dude, it was just good vibes from the start.
Mm-hmm.
I talked about it on the Match Day Live. I was like, just good vibes. And I put this out there, and this announcement still holding out. half of it's come true. On Match Day Live, I said, if we get the Coppa Italia and we somehow squeak in to Champions League, I'll buy a subscriber the new kit, personalized with whoever they want on it. So half of it's come true. So let's see. Hopefully on Sunday or the next podcast, probably be the Monday. Hopefully we're giving away a kit to a lucky
subscribers. If Al's offering a free kit and you don't buy someone like Di Chilegue or Krasik or someone crazy like that to make him pay for that, we did it wrong.
Yeah. That was good vibes though, seeing like, Del Piero get his kit, Marquisio, like it was good vibes, man. It was good vibes all day. And we carried it through, got the Coppa Italia in a nice victory that we'll recap here, the nice 2-1 victory. And yeah, man, we get the lineups. Honestly, I just didn't care because I just wanted them to win so bad. Mm-hmm. So we got the lineups, and it was like, you're looking at it, and you got Buffon in goal, fantastic. Quadrado, De Ligt, Chiellini, Danilo across the back, great. McKennie, not the biggest fan on that right side for whatever reason on that outside, but who cares? Just get it done. Bentancur, Rabiot, Chiesa. Okay, Bentancur and Rabiot combination, hit and miss, just whatever. Ronaldo, Kulusevski. So for me, the big thing was we're showing faith in Kulusevski. Big going for the trophy, and Pirlo doesn't go to Morata and doesn't go to Dybala, and shows a lot of faith in Kulusevski. Continues on with McKennie on that outside position. We know that Sandro wasn't available, so he had to use Danilo over on the left side, which I think was a good call. Mm-hmm. I did question maybe, still getting a true outside player like Kulu or Bernadeschi as one of those outsides and use Dybala probably up top. And regardless how it played out, I just hope that it worked, because honestly, like, this is the thing, people are so quick to crucify Pirlo, but he's taking shots and he's making calls. And in this particular instance, when you saw it play out, it did make sense tactically.
Yeah.
It really did. And it did against Merida too, when he ruled out Brozovic and rendered him useless by using Kulusevski in that play.
Yeah, I think I was like one of the few people that was like, hey, I'm okay with this lineup. The only question mark for me would have been McKennie out wide, but I understood why he did that. When we were talking about, the first two Atalanta games, it looked like he didn't learn anything from the first match to the second match. Well, this time I saw where he kind of learned something differently. And you see it in the approach, like you mentioned in Merida. Kulusevski isn't a perfect player. He's had an up and down season this year. But defensively, he gives us so much more. And the ability for him to pop out wide, you can run off of him. Ronaldo and him seem to have some sort of instinct from the last, second half of the season. They really built a little bit of a relationship there. It's just, Dybala doesn't have the defensive quality to really do that. And I think that's why they went with that, to get that extra man, because Atalanta's going to go all out to start the match.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? Again, Pirlo playing his cards, and he makes a couple calls. Well, I guess he holds off a couple calls in this match that were pretty ballsy too, and we'll get to that for sure. But yeah, the lineup's in. Really, ultimately, all matters. Get the job done. Let's get this trophy. And the match kicks off, and get a few early chances from Atalanta. They come out hot, man. Palomino gets an opportunity. I think it was going to go wide, but Buffon stood tall there. And then Zapata and De Ligt was a battle, man. That was good. That was a good watch, man. I enjoyed that battle in its entirety.
Yeah, nightmares of Zapata. He didn't even score a goal, but just like watch them throw around De Ligt and Chiellini for 90 minutes was wow.
Dude, it was something else, man. Like, he was Yeah, he was a beast. It didn't fall for him. He had a really great opportunity early, right after Palomino. It just went wide. He got him behind Delict. Delict couldn't play that aerial, and Chiellini was just had his back to him. And man, Zapata turned and hit one, and even Gigi was flat-footed. If that hits target, probably 1-0. But he misses, fortunately for us. And then, we just kind of go back and forth. But Atalanta really, really strong at the start. 12th minute, Pessina gets in a good spot, lobbies for a call, but no call there. And rightfully so, I think, when you watch the play. The ball was caught in his feet and he wasn't really doing anything. And Rabiot just comes in solid. Not really a foul, nothing really there. We carry on and... 17th minute, a very, very light pass back from Delict. Luckily, Zapata can't get enough on it, and Gigi gets his hands to it and stops it there. And then, 24th minute, Freuler comes really, really close for Atalanta too, and they look really, really good, man. They're really, really strong in that opening half hour. But then, right on the half hour mark, a la Kulishevsky, as it's becoming. We had ADP from the opposite side, and now it's becoming a la Kulishevsky. Great finish, man.
Tremendous.
Not a whole lot in the buildup either. Just coming out of our own zone. Just the way they were using Kulishevsky in there. He became that quick option for us as an escape after absorbing a bit, and he gets up. Slots it to Ronaldo. Ronaldo kind of bobbles it. He's still battling for with the defender. He goes down and literally stops the ball. And Big Mac comes in there, slots it over to Kulishevsky, who just curls a beauty, absolute beauty. I'm losing it. 1-0. Great. We weathered a storm and we got out on top, because I would be concerned if Juve fell behind.
Yeah.
We can all agree that, this team is night and day from if they get out ahead to going behind.
Yeah.
Even if a team draws us level, we don't look as bad as if we go that one goal behind.
Yeah, we're definitely not the team that likes to make a comeback. I also like to note on the Kulishevsky goal, I love the way that he celebrated. There was a bit of swagger there, like a little bit of arrogance that we haven't seen at all. Confidence.
And he was a part of Atalanta's youth side.
Yeah.
So he was a part of Atalanta's youth side. And I think there was fans giving it to him. I think there's some fans giving him the gears because he walked over and, made sure that he gave them the shush there. And it was good. A little bit of swagger there. I liked it. And the bench just getting fired up and jumping all over.
Pirlo's all the way down the touch line again.
Yeah, it's good. Let's get her going. Let's keep her rolling. So 1-0 lead's looking good. Let's go. Weather the storm. Keep it rolling. 41st minute. Oh man. Like, where to start on this? The ball's in Gigi's possession. And guys are really, really taking their time getting into position. Hindsight's always 20/20, but my God, man, he just rolls one out to Danilo, who at the time has time, but he doesn't have all the options he should. And if you freeze frame that scenario when Danilo gets the ball, because everybody pounced on Rabiot, and I'll get to Rabiot, but man, Danilo literally, if he looks out to the left where he should have his outlet, he's got nobody. The other center backs have remained level with him. Nobody dropped out back enough for him to just relay. Everybody's standing. Chiesa's way off the mark. He's up at half almost. He's not that outlet that Danilo should hit on the byline. He's nowhere to be found. Our mids are walking around. Everybody's walking. He plays it to Rabiot, who's got a guy draped on. Okay? He's got a guy draped on. Still, though, for a guy that big and that physical, come on, man. That's pretty weak how he got. But, okay, whatever. So if the guy still does that, okay, cool. You got out muscled, whatever. Guy's half your size, but that's cool.
Yeah, I just
You get out muscled, get up and work your ass off to get back there. He gets up there and he's on a light jog. He's
yeah,
on a light jog. Like I wouldn't even run that week in a practice. So he's on this light jog. But here's where it really pisses me off: the same mistakes. Bentancur drops almost behind our defenders. Malinovsky's his guy. If he just man marks, he doesn't need to drop there with the defenders.
yeah,
Just cover your guys right there. Just man mark, and that doesn't even happen. They all collapse, as we have been doing all season, which is mind blowing. We can't correct this. They all collapse. Malinowski finds it and hammers it home, and I'm pissed about this goal because, again, we just allow such poor goals, not from anything our opponents are either doing. You know what I mean? It's us.
Yeah. Yeah, it was frustrating. I really was annoyed that nobody stepped up to even like get in front of that shot or close him down. Bentancur, any of the defenders, they're kind of all backing off of him. And Malinowski, I think it's his second goal against us this year, right? And he
scored the one that deflected off Sandro.
Yeah, and like if you do your scouting report, I'm sure they went over. I mean, I hope they go over it, but like that is, it's just that is his shot. That's how he scores most of his goals. He has a rocket left foot.
Yeah,
he hits them from distance when no one closes him down. And I think that Juventus have to know that, and it's just little mistakes this year. And to be fair, I mean, defensively, Juventus they're only like a couple goals off of Merda, who are the best defense in Serie A. It's not like their defense has been atrocious. It's just they make little mistakes that they weren't making before because sometimes they just lack organization and they lack initiative sometimes. I don't understand it,
Yeah. It's frustrating. It's frustrating. Here we are 1-1. We go into halftime. Man, so we've got De Ligt and Chiellini, both our center backs, on yellows in a very, very energetic, physical game with Zapata creating some serious problems. At halftime, were you thinking maybe make a change at center back?
Yeah, I was a little nervous about Chiellini at halftime.
Me too.
Chiellini, the problem is, and we'll get into what we talk about a little bit later, but he's still a very good defender. It's just because he's lost a little bit of a step, he's a little bit more reckless because he has to rely on that a little bit more.
Yeah.
And I really worried if Atalanta were going to hit us as hard as they did, especially early in the second half, that he could get into some trouble. But my faith in Bonucci on his own with De Ligt is not the best, and I didn't know if they bring Demiral into that match or not. So, I understand why they didn't make the move. It ended up being working out anyway.
But it's a ballsy move because we kicked off the second half, and you got both CBs there. Like if one of them would have picked up a yellow, Pirlo would have been crucified.
Yeah,
absolutely crucified. And yeah, I was even saying, I go, you don't want to. Like, I don't want to mess with that pairing or change them, but that's risky business in a game of this, the way it was being played.
Mm-hmm.
High pace, energetic, and physical. Super physical. I'm like, man. And Chiellini would be the guy picked just because, again, he's, a bit older, he's got everything you kind of touched on. So, but Pirlo goes with it. Ballsy decision. Paid off for him, though. Paid off. 47th minute, McKennie gets an opportunity off a header, just putting it wide. Really getting up there. Great cross from Quadrado on that one. In the 51st minute, massive block by De Ligt, showing incredible sacrifice, getting stomped in the process and whatnot. But De Ligt's just an animal.
This kid, I can't. Trying to tell my friends that don't watch Juventus every week how good he is. I'm lost for words of it. He's 21, 22, and he's as good as defenders are in their prime. Like his ceiling is so high. It's and that block was it's ridiculous. He does it every week almost.
Massive block. And you see the frustration in the Atalanta bench and Gasparini there on that one. And fantastic. 8 minutes later, great press. Chiellini intercepts this ball and plays it perfectly to Ronaldo. And Chiesa reads it beautifully and gets into a spot. Ronaldo with a back heel layoff. This is it. Chiesa hits it. Post. Oh my God. I'm just thinking how. I thought for sure 100% that's a goal. Very, very unlucky. Very, very unlucky.
I think that he takes it on his right foot and he tries to curl around the keeper, but I was hoping he'd almost go near post. I thought maybe he would have squeezed it in, but as we'll get to, he rectifies it.
13 minutes later with a great give and go with Kulishevsky, who comes into space. Chiesa takes it literally from the flank, cuts inside centrally, finds Kulishevsky, almost had the defense thinking Chiesa was going to continue on that road and then just cut hard inside. And Toloi was caught absolutely flat-footed. And, Chiesa slots her home. And there you go, 2-1. Ride it out. And that we do. We hang on. There's not much after that. Atlanta goes for a push. They're lobbying for calls. They're getting intensely frustrated. A foul on Ilicic seems to really boil over, and Darun getting cards, Toloi getting sent off from the bench, and we see it through. We kill time perfectly. There was some counter opportunities late there, but to no avail, just riding it out. Even CR happily going to the corner and just killing this one out, and we get the job done.
Yeah.
Coppa Italia champions. Nice to get that badge on the nice new kits. Here we go. Second trophy for Pirlo in his first season ever. Very, very happy for him. A great birthday gift from the lads to Pirlo and Gigi Buffon, Chiellini. They get to celebrate this one, possibly their last trophy with Juventus as members of Juventus. Great scenes in the celebrations, man. And even just the goal. Dybala waiting to enter the pitch. Plays Chiesa right after Chiesa scores. He gets substituted for Dybala, and you see Dybala just literally grab Pirlo. And that shit's just beautiful to see, man.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, even like the full-time whistle. I mean, you think about years in the past that we've won the Coppa Italia. We've won it 4 times in this run. I can't remember, except for maybe the first one, the team celebrate the Coppa Italia like they did this one. I mean, Pirlo jumping up and down on the sidelines. I mean, God, as a player, he had no emotion as a player. You never saw anything. Even the goals he scored, there wasn't much emotion. But just seeing him as a coach just run up the touchline or celebrate with Dybala or start jumping up and down, he's in tears after the match, and you're just like, I mean, it made me emotional. Pirlo was one of the first players I ever started watching when I started watching the game. He's had his up and downs this year. I've been critical of him, but good for him. I mean, and what a better way to end possibly the career of Chiellini. Buffon, as we know, his time with Juve is gone. But what those two meant to this club, and you can even throw Pirlo in there because this club really, our shift started when Pirlo came on the free. It was like hired Conte, Pirlo comes on a free, Juventus were back. Like it started with that, right? They were that first match. Pirlo was brilliant. You can also say it ended with Pirlo, but it was so beautiful to see like the people who had started that run get that last trophy.
It's wild, Pirlo now being on the sideline and those guys still being on the damn pitch. It's crazy.
What did Bonucci say during Barzali's retirement when they were in the trophy room? He said that Gigi's probably going to retire him. I mean, that's the way it's looking nowadays.
Yeah, it's wild, man. It's special. It's special to see these celebrations, man. It's fantastic. Like I said, there's good vibes all day. Those the old timers that are getting their kits and whatnot. Mr. T, when we were joking about even Pepe getting one and whatnot, he's got a comment here saying, "Wonder if where Martinez got a jersey."
I hope
I
not.
was thinking if Sabina got one, maybe. Maybe they're digging deep. They're digging deep there, and yeah, it's good times. Real quick for anybody that's just tuning in on audio, listening to this podcast, keep in mind these are all recorded live. So when we're pulling these comments, it's from YouTube. Get over to our YouTube channel and please subscribe and take part in these discussions. We love having you guys live on the spot and throwing your comments in. It's always good times. For those of you here and checking out the videos, please throw a like down there on the video. It means a lot. And yeah, man. So the celebrations kick in. Chiellini and Gigi, last dance probably. Hey,
Yeah, I think. I mean, obviously it's the last dance for Buffon,
Buffon is clearly last dance, but Chiellini.
yeah, unless Chiellini agrees to come back like Barzali did in the last year, I just don't see it. His legs are barely there, and he's been good at times this year. He's had some solid performances, but he just injury wise isn't reliable anymore. It's sad to see because that's one of my favorite players Juventus have ever had. But hopefully he'll go play for FC Cincinnati, which is where I went to college, only 4 hours away, and I can go see him all the time.
I was gonna say, Chiellini wants to jump on the MLS train there. Yeah, I'd go check him out for a game.
Just as long as it's not in Italy, like just please don't do that.
Well, and now we get to Buffon. Some interesting teams. Because you've got what, Atalanta,
yeah,
Porto, Genoa.
I mean,
so kind of interesting. But he said a little something about somebody involved in this team being very, very crazy, like just a madman, and it's hard for him to not be attracted to those type of minds, right? So it's really weird, and it made everybody think of Sampdoria or what.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the crazy thing, I think Buffon has had a lot of fun with these rumors in the last month. Like, in the build-up to this match, he's throwing hints that he may retire. He's throwing hints that he might be a manager, and then he's throwing hints that like he might, join a interesting prospect. And then he talked yesterday about making it to the World Cup. Like, I think that he's like toying with the journalists a little bit. It's a needed distraction from Pirlo, the job, top four. He knows what he's doing.
Man, one thing for me for sure though is like the dude can still play first team football.
I mean, there is no debate who the greatest goalkeeper of all time is. I mean, even people that you talk to outside of Juventus will tell you that is the GOAT. And just
throwing the Champions League trophy around, like throwing that at him is just so useless at this point based on the longevity and the fact at the age he's at right now, he could still play first team ball. It's unbelievable.
People joke around about the Champions League trophy, but just remember the record for the most minutes without a goal conceded belongs to Gigi Buffon in the Champions League. It's over 1,000 minutes. It's ridiculously impressive. I just think that, what he did this year, I mean, to go undefeated at 42 years of age and what he means to the club. I mean, this is a guy who literally was nominated for the Ballon d'Or. He's in his prime and went down to Serie B. He was in our banter years in his prime and just kept going and just, rebuilt the club. I always say that ADP is the symbol for Juventus. When you think of Juventus, you think of ADP. But the soul of this club is Gigi Buffon, the passion, the emotion. That is Buffon. He represents that like human, emotional side of Juventus. And just even to come back, someone like Buffon who's so decorated, to even come back and be a backup for 2 years because the club needed some extra leadership. They knew they were going through transition. I mean, to swallow your pride and do that, how he did that and handle it so graciously. it, it's remarkable, and just that I run out of words just to describe what Buffon means to the club, because he's an absolute legend. As horrible as it would be to see him play for Atalanta or Genoa, Gigi has the right to do whatever the hell he wants at this point,
Offered, the armband, didn't want it.
Yeah.
Offered the number 1, didn't want it. It was the guy is unbelievable, man. And seeing him go to a team in Italy, though, would be bizarre.
Yeah, it would be weird.
It would be very, very weird. The only thing I could accept, and just for me and nostalgia purposes, I'd be okay if he went to Parma to finish where it all kind of kicked off.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I said, impossible to replace. Very, very impossible to replace. Never be done. We'll never see another one like Gigi, in my opinion.
He is. I mean, for goalkeepers, he's like what Messi is to forwards. I mean, every year you could look at Buffon's career and be like, he did something incredible that year.
Yeah, absolutely.
You could even go match by match and find something ridiculous he did.
Yeah,
that's how good he was.
So most likely the ends. We know Buffon's moving on. Chiellini, there's a good chance. Dybala and Cristiano Ronaldo. Last trophy with Juve.
Ooh. At least for one of them. The question is which one. I think we could both agree that like our first preference would be to let Ronaldo go. He's going to be 37. But it's complicated with both those guys.
It's complicated. It is.
You're looking at like with Ronaldo, I think, gun to my head, I think Dybala gets sold first. Just a gut feeling. But, I mean, and the only reason I say that is because Ronaldo is – the teams that could buy Ronaldo at the moment have no reason or no financial ability to. Like Real Madrid, their finances have been destroyed this year. Manchester United are a younger team, and they kind of already have that old vet in Cavani. PSG, if they bring back both Mbappe and Neymar, there's no chance. Unless they pull some UEFA trickery, which is always possible. But then the flip side is, what's the market for Paulo Dybala? I mean, I don't see him ending up in England, and does he go to Spain? I mean, what can you really get for him at this point? He's kind of had like his worst year as a footballer right when his prime should be, So it's really, really difficult. I just hope that the club, if they decide, hey, we're gonna move on from Ronaldo, they're actually going to invest in Dybala. You can't lose both. Like you have to sell one, let the other. You either have to sell Dybala and let Ronaldo walk, or you gotta sell Ronaldo and invest around Dybala. Be like, hey, you're the captain of the future. It's tough. I mean, yeah, I'd say gut feeling is that it's probably the last one for Dybala, which I would hate to see because I just, I've been critical of the guy, but like he represents like what you would want from a player. Like, he is, that next guard.
And that's the funny thing is that we're so, like you get a win like this and it's so easy to get caught up in like the emotions of seeing these guys. You're like, oh man, he means too much. He can't do it. He can't do it. And Dybala, and I flip back and forth too this season because it's just, it's tough. It's tough, but you nailed it. It's very, very complicated for both of these guys. I'm not one that fears Ronaldo's goal tally leaving. Like we'll score goals.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not all in one place.
Yeah. Well, another thing is that one of the problems with Dybala is that for whatever reason, tactically, coaches seem to not be able to figure out how to consistently get him in there. I kind of think that lately it's been because Juventus don't have a creative midfielder. So Dybala kind of has to become the creative midfielder, and it leaves whoever your number 9 is on an island because he's supposed to kind of be closer to the final third. That's where Dybala likes to operate. So if you're going to keep Paulo Dybala, you need to make sure that you get the resources around Paulo Dybala to get the best out of him. Because if you're going to keep him and you're not going to put those resources around him, you're going to have the same situation you've had, this year at times, or even last year at times, where a coach is going to come in and be like, I don't know what to do here because, this guy has to be our creative player, and that's not really – he has to be our creative midfielder, and that's not really getting the best out of him.
Yeah.
That's another layer to the argument.
This is one of the discussions that was happening during this match, and even the last one, just based on how Kulusevski was used, sitting atop of that midfield, but in behind one lone striker. Mm-hmm. Could Dybala not play that role? Because I think he could.
He could, and he's done it before. It's just the only reason Kulusevski, I think, played was because of the defensive part. And that's not, essentially you lose a man defensively with Ronaldo. Ronaldo actually, to be fair, I thought put in a pretty good shift. You put a lot of pressure on the ball. You worked really hard for the team. But in general, you usually lose that. He's kind of conserves his minutes a little bit. So that's why I think Kulusevski's in there. I think that Dybala could do it. It's just the problem is, if they take the Udinese game, for example, which I think he started in that one, correct? Yeah. So in that one, he was playing as deep as Bentancur and Rabiot were because Juventus couldn't get the ball at all. That happened against Lyon too. I think Pjanic sat out of that game and he kept coming deep. And, there was the famous thing in the tunnel where Ronaldo was like, they won't pass forward to us. And he was like, that's why I keep coming deep. I mean, it's one of those things where it's that I think that, in the years where we've lost that player, that deep relying playmaker, the guy who can distribute the ball deep in the midfield, it's now fallen to Dybala because that's the next most natural player. And it sets him back. So the next coach needs to be like, hey, Dybala's good at that number 10 role, the false 9, or the guy behind the striker, or the guy playing off the striker. But we need to realize that we need creative players around him so he doesn't have to come all the way back to midfield to get the ball, keep him closer to goal, because that's where the magic happens, Yeah. Dybala loves to be just around that area.
Yeah. And I think he can. I think he could do it in that role or whatnot. But I don't know. I think it's still a fitness thing that Pirlo just didn't have the faith, because he has looked like he's trying to get back into it.
Yeah, I think that especially this year with performances, I've tried not, at least in the last stint, tried not to be too critical because he doesn't look fit to me. That takes time. And this is a guy who got no preseason. He was injured, and then he got a little bit of game time, then got injured again.
He lost. He didn't play for pretty much almost the season entirety. He was barely available. But yeah, I think he could play that role, man. I really, really think he could. And excel there.
It's not
honestly, that setup makes the most sense for us. I mean, the way they were trying to do that 4-4-2, and you're right, you do lose defensive help from Ronaldo. He's not the best playing the top man because of how much freedom he plays with and drifting. So you kind of lose a focal point. There are some sacrifices there, but ultimately that's the best way to do it for the unit, because it just creates much more stability defensively, having 5 across the middle there. And when you're using, Chiesa and Kulusevski slightly higher to be able to turn it around quicker, it kind of makes it work with a guy like Ronaldo that can drift around, because Chiesa's got unbelievable pace.
Yeah.
And Kulusevski, when he plays like he did like that, can make it work.
The other flip side could be this too, if you're looking from a tactical perspective. Let's say that the next coach comes in and wants to play a 4-4-3 or 4-3-3, right? Where you get your Kulusevskis and your Chiesas running down the wings, right? Well, now your best attribute for those guys is having a target man. Then what do you do with someone like Dybala, right? It becomes really complicated. But if you get the right personnel in the midfield, you can afford to do that. If you get players that actually get into the box, in the midfield, you can make up for that, right? It's a matter of, okay, we're going to take Dybala's strengths and we're going to build around that. And if you're not going to do that, you might as well not bring him in. I mean, that's the whole Ronaldo project issue, is that Juventus made this move and never really built around it. Like, they never put the right personnel in to take advantage of it. So I think that going forward, whatever we do and whoever we keep, it's a means to an end.
Yeah, you're right. On point. Lewis on fire tonight. Love it.
I'm very energized for someone who is up at 1:30.
Yeah. 10:22 my time, 1:30 yours. I love it. Okay, here's a dream scenario coming in from Ken and Raheem here. Dream scenario: CR7 Pogba swap. Pogba refusing renewal, and then Dybala João Felix swap with Bentancur and Renan Lodi to make up the finances. Rejuvenation. Felix complements Chiesa and a numero 7. João Felix is more suited to modern football than Paulo. Presses better, runs into space better, and more athletic. Can play out wide, and he's about 7 years younger. Front three of Chiesa, Felix, and Kulu. Well, so we get Pogba, João Felix, Lodi. Yeah, wake me up.
That's the stuff that dreams are made of.
Wake me up.
Yeah, I would love that. I would love that. It's some of those aren't crazy, like the Bentancur Lodi thing could happen. The Dybala Felix thing isn't that crazy. I don't think Dybala is a Simeone type player, but they make a lot of moves that aren't Simeone type players. So you never know. The Pogba thing for me, I just think that's been thrown around so many summers in a row. I just refuse to believe it's ever going to happen. But
I want it to.
I want it. I'm not saying I don't want it. It's just that I can't bring myself to believe it because it happens every summer, But you never know. I mean, he has a good point. Pogba's not taking a renewal. United may not win a trophy again this year. You do have to wonder, again with the pandemic, it's hard to think that United is going to get 110 million for him. So they're either looking at him walking for free or selling him at a discount. I mean, you never know.
Yeah, that's the thing. They're kind of the same boat because like Juve can't afford to get Dybala gone on a free.
Yeah.
By not, if seeing his contract out. So they really got to make a deal here this summer or extend him.
Yeah.
So they gotta, they're gonna have to figure that one out too. So go ahead, sorry.
One more thing on Dybala, I just thought of this, but I wonder if he looks around at his options and starts to think maybe I should just take the deal that's in front of me, because I don't know that necessarily the Premier League is good for Dybala. Like, he just physically doesn't seem a fit in the Premier League.
Yeah.
And if Tottenham's your move, like you're going kind of lateral, maybe even down. Tottenham's not going to be playing in any European competitions next year. And Atletico Madrid, you're either with Simeone or you're without Simeone. And, they're talking about bringing players like Griezmann back. Like, I don't know if Dybala necessarily gets into that 11 just yet. So like, it's interesting. Like, I wonder if he looks at the Juve situation and says, like, hey, like, maybe I just take the deal that's in front of me. Like, it's a better setup for me personally. But I don't know.
I don't see him fitting into Simeone's mold there of, like he needs his physical power guy and then he needs his kind of quicker, more athletic guy to kind of play off him. Dybala would, I think, run into a similar situation of not really knowing where to fit in that particular system. I agree with you in terms of the Premier League. I don't see him playing there. I think, I think Spain he could play for sure, just not in Simeone's setup.
Yeah.
Can't see that one working. But yeah, he could definitely play in Spain, PSG for sure. But the rumors said that PSG didn't show interest in him or whatnot. So be interesting to see. But complicated. It's complicated at all levels, board, manager, and players, but it is strange to see that there's been no contact for a very long time now between Dybala's family, his agents, and the club.
Yeah.
Not promising.
No.
Not promising by any means. Even as a player, I mean, you can only go through that for so long before you
Yeah.
need to move on, figure out. Regardless, like I'll never question his love for the club. 150%, he's always showed it to me. That he's got the love for the club, but at the same time, I do think there's relationship issues. But somebody did bring up a good point, and we did discuss it on this pod, that perhaps a new board and the relationship can be repaired. Maybe it's with the current guys.
Yeah, I mean, depending on who the coach is, I mean, let's say hypothetically, I know the big name that everyone kind of really wants is Allegri back. Allegri, in his Rye interview, talked about how good of a player Paulo Dybala is. If he's going to rejoin Juventus, you don't think that he would be like, hey, like, I want you to bring this guy along? I think that, new board could help, new coach could help, the new ideas. I mean, if Ronaldo really does ask for a transfer, like if we miss the top four, Ronaldo's like, hey, like I want out of here. Or even if we make the top four, he's like, hey, I'm going somewhere else. Maybe the board 180s. Maybe they say, hey, we're going to pay up. It's a lot of hypotheticals here. It's not likely he renews. It doesn't feel like it, at least, just from the news. But it's not impossible to see a scenario where he doesn't stay. Like he could still stay theoretically.
Yeah.
ADP almost left the club. There was some friction with Capello, so it's not crazy to think that at one point it looks like it's at an end and it never takes part.
Yeah. Great point here by Kenan Raheem here. The fear with Paul is that why would he accept any moves this summer when he can choose his destiny next summer? Signing bonus and all likelihood, Paulo leaves on a free. And
also valid.
Been saying it for a while. Like my fear is that that's what's going to happen. It's going to hurt. That's going to hurt Juve. Again, it would be a situation that was mismanaged.
Yeah,
because this has been going on for a couple of years now. So frustrating. The young guns. Let's talk about the young guns. Man of the match went to Chiesa. I might have given it to Kulusevski.
Yeah, that was my man of the match.
Yeah.
Even before Chiesa, I mean, I know he scored the winner. He didn't really have that good of a game, but
his first half he didn't. Second half he picked it up.
Yeah,
but like his first half, he was struggling to get involved as much. He was working hard.
Yeah, his mentality is.
Yeah, but it was mostly on the defensive side there. But Kulusevski for me, man of the match for sure. This trophy is big for these young guys on this team. The uncertainty of what's going to happen here with this club next season, the faces that are going to be leaving. But, whether rivals or even some Juventini want to downplay certain trophies or whatnot, it's trophies are trophies. It's always good to win trophies, and this is good experience. Massive value for these youngsters to be playing in finals of any sort and winning them. Big. The fact that our goals came from Chiesa and Kulusevski, fantastic. Kulusevski having a big game. Pirlo showing a lot of faith in him.
Yeah.
Going to him in do or die scenarios against Merda, Coppa Italia Final. Big, massive build off that. McKennie in there. You know what I mean? Like, this is big for these guys because, they need to carry that on. We need to carry it on not only on Sunday against Bologna, but into next season. Whatever the future may hold, we need to carry that on. We need to get going with that. But it was great to see that from these youngsters, and Kulusevski. I want to get your thoughts on Kulusevski because I feel like so many are far too harsh on him, have been far too harsh on him this season.
Yeah, I think that I think that a lot of the criticism for Kulusevski just comes from the overall frustration with the club as a whole. if you really think about it, Kulusevski was signed last January. So he always struck me as more of a Sarri signing than necessarily a Pirlo signing. But you can tell that there's developed at least a good relationship between the two of them. And the way that they embrace after the match shows that there is a good relationship. I just think in general with young players, we're so quick to pass judgment. Oh, he's like the famous thing I always hear from people, even people incoming transfers. Oh, they're not Juventus material. Like, what the hell does that mean? Like, you have to remember sometimes, take a step back and remember, this kid is only 21, 22. The stuff that did at Parma at 21 is stuff that most players in Serie A haven't done before. You even take a player like Demiral. Like, people are like, they're expecting him to beat Chiellini. Like, he's 23 years old. Like, these are raw talents, and they take time. And, I just think that Kulusevski, while his performances overall haven't been very good, and for the most of the year they've struggled. He's been asked to play out of position a lot. He went from being a winger and a main man to a club where he's kind of the third or fourth option, and he's been moved around a lot by Pirlo. But when it's there, I mean, there are some flashes of brilliance. I mean, the Sassuolo game, all the Merida games he played very, very well. This game, he scored some bangers. And one of the things that when you talk about like downplaying the Coppa Italia has always been one of my favorite tournaments because the big clubs always play these guys. They're always like on the fringe or squad players. And you really win it like with your team as a unit, right?
Yeah.
Like you win it with your backup keeper. You win it with, guys that don't play very much. And the anchor behind this Coppa Italia run were the young guys, Chiesa, Kulusevski, some of the youth players. Demiral had a huge part to play in a lot of these matches. De Ligt, who, by the way, De Ligt could have been a man of the match for me if it wasn't given to Kulu. So I think that just Kulusevski, we just need to take a step back and acknowledge, hey, this kid is 22. Maybe we've seen some flashes of brilliance. It hasn't always been perfect. But that is a door open to let's see what happens again next year. I think that if Pirlo comes back or if it's another coach and gets them in the right, lineup and they actually utilize them to their strengths, the sky's the limit for either of these two. I even think as good as Chiesa's been, you can't honestly say that we've utilized him to the best of his potential this year. I still think that there's more to grow. There's more ceiling for these guys. I think that we just need as fans to take a step back and realize, they're still relatively young. Bentancur is another example of that. He's only like 23. He's been playing for us for 4 years, but people forget he came over as an 18-year-old.
Yeah. Kulusevski, it's hard. You have Chiesa on the other hand. It was almost like a little bit opposite. Because people were kind of excited for Kulusevski, but then people were like frustrated that we went after Chiesa, and then all of a sudden Chiesa
weird, right?
And everybody's like, "Oh yeah, Chiesa," and then oh damn, this Kulusevski guy, and it's interesting. And Andra here, Bachasina here says in the same. It's hard for Kul because of the comparison with Chiesa. If either one of them are doing good, the other one ends up getting the big target on their back. And it's tough one. And Alexander here coming in with a great point too. He's getting a lot of unwarranted flack because he's inexperienced and playing out of position. I'd say he's done decently well given the circumstances this year. And we got to remember, a lot of the minutes we saw to Kulusevski have been at second striker, which if you would have asked anybody where you're going to play him at the start of the year, it would not have been a second striker. Go ahead, Lewis.
I was just going to say that the big thing you look for in the player, especially young players, if there was a little bit of progression from the start of the year to the end of the year. And I think in general, we've seen a little bit of a progression, at least in the second half of the year. I mean, we see him a little bit more come off and give more impact off the bench. Even in games where he hasn't been at his best, he gets a key pass, he gets a through ball. Like the Sassuolo game, I didn't think he played particularly well, but he had that brilliant assist to Dybala. I just think, in years past, Juventus have had great players in a really deep team. So if you had a player like Bentancur or Kulusevski that got off on the wrong foot, it was okay because you could go back to Khedira or Matuidi or Douglas Costa or these great Mario Mandzukic, these great, reliable veterans. And this year, it's a relatively young team, not as deep as it was before. Your next option is Bernardeschi, who, he's lost all of his confidence at this point. You really don't have much there. Dybala's been hurt most of the year. So there was a lot of like throw these guys into the fire and like kind of let them burn a little bit. And, I just think that we just need to be a little bit more patient with some of these guys.
Big time. And, Kulishevsky's got what, like 7 goals?
Yeah.
Something like that. Bernardeschi's got 10 in his whole tenure with us.
Yeah. And I think that like Demiral's another example of this. We've talked about Demiral and, some of the criticism of him. But, next year with an aging Bonucci and no more Chiellini, is a manager inclined to play him more and actually like grind out the kinks that are in his, his weaknesses, right? So maybe Kulishevsky, this summer he gets some work in, he works, physically he works and he puts in some more stuff and he has a good tournament with Sweden and he comes back a little bit more confident. And whoever the manager is, whether it's Pirlo or someone else, really throws him in and tries to iron it out. I think that's a big thing with young players.
Yeah. I think, this little shift that Pirlo has found with him shadowing Brozovic and then using him in that same scenario ahead of the midfield behind your front man, it's the best of both worlds for him.
Mm-hmm.
Physically, he's good. Can work in the midfield there, but he's good at carrying the ball.
Yeah.
You got to get him out of these awkward scenarios when he's playing out on the wing and he's got his back to goal and, on the ball. Like that's when it's a little rough.
Yeah.
And that's not his forte. But when you get him in that scenario where he can come out of the middle of the park and he can run at teams, he'll do some serious damage.
Yeah. And I think too, like if you notice, I thought that at least from the tactical standpoint, from the first half to the second half, he was drifting really wide a lot in the first half. In the second half, it was almost like Pirlo kind of simplified a lot of the attacking roles and was like, hey, you just need to like stay close to Ronaldo or stay close to the center backs or get right in between those midfielders. And when his role becomes simplified, Kulishevsky seems to play a lot better because he knows what he's bringing and what he needs to do. Where it's like before they're asking him to, pop wide and run a little bit more free. And he's just not ready to do that yet. Chiesa can do that because Chiesa's been playing for the Italian national team and, he has that mentality. But some players need to be nurtured and need to be taught that mentality. It's not just instantly there.
Yeah.
And even Chiesa at Fiorentina, it took him a little bit to get it. It wasn't until like that last year where he really separated mentally. So it just takes time with young players,
Absolutely. And you got to have patience. And going back to your comment, when you hear, UNT saying, well, this player's he's not Juve caliber. And it's just like, I figure they're putting it, like when I hear people say that, I'm thinking they're saying it because like they're expecting always established players to be the pickups. Like that's what it sounds like to me. It's like, oh, he's not Juve caliber. If I'm saying he's not Juve caliber, I'm more saying it like if we are going after somebody that's been in the game for a while. And I just don't personally think he fits, what we need or whatnot and like the team setup and whatnot. If you're saying a young guy is not Juve caliber, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Because he'd have to still have shown quite a bit of himself to make that judgment already that you're just like, no, he's not Juve caliber. Like it's speculative.
Yeah, it's a case in point would be when we were linked with Barella. I mean, there are a ton of people who are like, oh, he's not the midfielder Juventus need. Well,
he's not Juve caliber. And it's like, well, he
joins Murda and that was exactly what we needed,
Yep.
So I just think that as a fan base, you need to acknowledge that this is a young player, that there's a bunch of raw potential, in whether they show that raw potential or not. Like if Kulishevsky had the whole year, he scored 2 goals and had like an assist, and never showed any glimpses of the player he was at Parma, you'd be like, yeah, we need to send this guy out on loan, or we need to get rid of him. fine. But this is a player that like had some glimpses of it, that showed even in the beginning of the season some glimpses of it. So maybe it's just saying, look, this is a 22-year-old that got went from a team that was like fighting for relegation to a team that's expected to win everything. And it just needs a little bit more patience. And, hey, maybe this is a turning point for him. You have a game like that in the Coppa Italia, in a game where maybe Juventus wasn't favored for the first time in a long time. I mean, this could be a turning point. So
yeah, I think it's important to have patience, and everybody wants big signings. It's part of that FIFA thing. Where it's just like, let's load them up. But you go down the line, Juve caliber, you could have said the same thing at Pogba when he came in at 800,000 K or whatever. You could have said the same thing about Barzagli when he came in for next to nothing from Wolfsburg, I believe.
Yeah.
Came in for next to nothing. You could have said the same thing about Vidal. You just don't know, right? Juve caliber. I think it's more looking at the teams and realizing what we need, where our gaps are and whatnot. And honestly, great point on Barella, because I remember that, because I was all over Barella. I was like, we should be getting this guy's in our backyard. It's 23 something million. Fight for it. Even if you have to up the price a bit, just do it. The guy was balling out at a garbage club.
Mm-hmm.
Balling out at a garbage club, and we were hurting for midfielders, and there wasn't a lot of options out there. Take a stab on this young kid, but you live, you learn, right? But the Juve caliber thing, it's interesting when you see it brought up. I think it's okay when we're thinking in terms of established guys.
Yeah,
Here's about maybe it could be attitude if you've seen them throughout their career and you're thinking like, I don't know if he's gonna fit the Juve mold, whatever. And I gotta admit, I had some doubts about that about certain players, and they proved me wrong when it came to Juve.
Yeah, I mean, infamously, I think everyone had some doubts about Tevez.
Yeah, Tevez was one for sure, and I was thinking, my God, and they gave him the 10 of all things, and I'm thinking, wow, and holy shit, did he prove all of us that we're saying that wrong.
One more thing on young players. If you remember, like the first couple of years of the Banter era, like Chiellini then and Chiellini that we saw in the decade where we were winning titles, much different players. Chiellini really, it took him a while to grow out of that aggressive, kind of all over the place. Conte gave him a lot of structure. I mean, it was there in flashes, but it was never to the point where it is now, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that
players need polishing.
Yeah, even De Ligt, you could argue, needed some polishing. I thought De Ligt started the first 15 minutes. He looked a little nervy,
Well, to be fair, Zapata was going.
Yeah. But he's also De Ligt is only 22 years old. I mean, imagine where he'll be in 4 or 5 years when he gets into his prime years.
I love with that. He put his head down and he just kept battling. He just kept. It didn't matter if Zapata got the best of him maybe on a play 30 seconds ago. He was right back in his face and right back in there, just never shied away. And that's what I'm looking for. It's okay that you get beat the odd time, it'll happen.
Yeah,
but it's how you react. It's how you respond. Is you're are you moping around? Are you what's the attitude? De Ligt's he's the total package. He's got the comparison here when Demirol gets held up to Demirol gets held up to De Ligt. It's just I think we need to take a step back there too, because that's not fair either, because not everybody's going to be like that. And I truly believe De Ligt is a generational talent, man.
Yeah.
For sure. So to now even pick apart Demirol, I see him as a different style. And there's nothing wrong with that. People that are attacking him for his aggression and oh no, he's reckless and whatnot, it's well, no, he's that guy you don't want to play against.
Yeah,
that's him. De Ligt, guys don't want to play against him, but for different reasons. He's a much more controlled, cleaner type of guy. But Demirol's the guy that starts to attract a lot of attention because people are like, man, where is this guy?
Yeah.
What's he doing next? Am I in danger here? And it's serious when you play against guys like that because it takes guys right out of the game. I do think Demerol needs some polishing for sure. If an offer comes in and it's high enough, do we move him? I don't think there's too many players that are safe, to be honest.
Yeah. And then, I mean, saying a player needs polish and that he's unsellable, different things. But again, that was a really good comparison because De Ligt came from a club like Ajax, who was in the Champions League semifinals. Demerol came from Sassuolo, where he was the man in the back line to the fourth choice center back.
Yeah,
that is a huge ask. I mean, you're looking to break into already the best defense of the last decade that just added the best young defender in world football. Who there were people wondering how the hell De Ligt was going to get into the team, with Chiellini and Bonucci there. So it's some of these players, you don't want to make the leash too long, but you don't want to cut it off before they're just getting started.
Exactly. And Demerol, man, like if people just, have doubts or whatnot, this guy with his national team, with Turkey, it's incredible, man.
Yeah.
He's shut down some incredible talent with his national side and played some fantastic matches. And he's done it for us too. But again, of course there's risks involved when you have players that play like that. I mean, the old school guys, we've seen it with Montero. Like you love the guy and you love having that guy on your team and people hated playing against him. There are some risks.
Yeah.
Sometimes it bites you and it hurts you, but it's the game you play when you have one of those guys. But it's not to say that it can't be used and he's not a good defender because of it.
Listen, Sergio Ramos, the best center back maybe I've seen this last decade. I mean, it's close to him, Chiellini, but Ramos has the titles. He's sent off like 5 times a year.
Yeah.
Like he has the red card record in the Champions League, I think now. It's worked out pretty well for him. So it just, we need to be a little less nitpicky and just give it a little bit more time. I think we need to be open to things a little bit more.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. And, of course, we've been talking a lot this episode just about uncertainty and whatnot, and everything's, in question, the board, manager, players. The names reported, Mihajlovic, Gattuso, Inzaghi, Gasparini's in there. And, of course, we just played Atalanta, Coppa Italia, and Gasparini was one that, you saw the debate, Eric and myself, kind of going back and forth in the team chat and whatnot. And I'm going to put the question out there, and everybody that's joining us live, you can say this too. If it was Gasparini next season and not Pirlo, do you make the change? Because for me, that's not even enough of a step, really, for me to even say you make a change. For me, it's a top-tier manager or you don't even make a change, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's hard right after the final. Gasparini is a good coach, but if you look at the way Juventus' board is, now I don't know how they're going to change, but for a hypothetical sense, we don't know what they're going to do yet, so let's just assume it's the same board. They don't really buy players that coaches like Gasparini would want, which is players that play specific rules, a specific style. I mean, one of the big things with Sarri is they hired Sarri and then bought no Sarri players. They just were like, hey, here's your team. So that works for some coaches. Allegri, Conte kind of made do with it, but it doesn't necessarily work for everyone. And I think Gasparini is a good coach if you give him the tools that he needs to succeed. But if you don't do it, we've seen in his career in the past, it doesn't always work out. So for me, I would say no, because I just don't think the board would back him like that.
So that's an interesting take, and I'll get to my take. We're going to share some of these thoughts from our friends joining us live here, and Alex coming in here with out of Italy. I'd like Inzaghi or Gasp only. Kanan agreeing with me, either a top coach or keep Pirlo. He's got a big butt there and hasn't come in with the next part. But Moran, he'd make the change. Man, here's me and Matt Milana coming in. I keep Pirlo, if not a top coach. And Canan got his butt in here. Gasparini is a top coach. Thing is, the locker room at Juve is toxic. He wouldn't be backed enough. Sorry situation all over again. I see for myself, the things with Gasparini is he would need time. He would need time. The other thing is he's going to be dealing with a higher profile locker room. I have problems with his attitude that he's shown at Atalanta. And I don't think he could manage a higher profile locker room.
Yeah, it's fair.
I see a sorry situation like that. And Kenan saying, it's the locker room of Juve that's toxic. I don't necessarily think toxic or whatnot. I think the environment as a whole has a bit of toxicity based on how we've operated, and we dove deep. Dove deep on, the moves, the things that they were doing for years, and legend treatment and player treatment and all these scenarios. And we painted a pretty good picture of if you were a part of that group in that locker room, how you would feel. But for me personally, for a guy like we're slamming Pirlo for experience. Okay. He just got thrown into this fire. He comes out of it not even having a ticket at the start of the season. We got a couple of trophies. He's won the Coppa Italia, he's won Super Coppa for many, many reasons. And I will die on this hill. Okay, there was a lot of circumstances. They're not excuses for Pirlo because he made many, many mistakes as well. But again, he's a first-time manager. I expected that. But I still say, even with an experienced manager, this team would not have won the Scudetto this season.
I think that they qualify for top 4 a little bit easier, but I don't think they necessarily win.
I agree with you there. With an experienced manager, we easily get in there. Yeah. And let's not forget about all these scenarios throughout the season that were game-changing moments that we couldn't get in our favor, that hurt us.
Yeah. I think, another thing here is, what's the precedent that Juventus have set? Because the first manager they sacked was our winningest manager in history, and he won the league by 16 points. Fine. The Champions League was embarrassing to lose to Ajax. It's time to move on. Your next manager comes in. He was a game away from the double. Wasn't the right fit. You sacked him. Now you have Pirlo, who's technically won 2 trophies. Depending if you count the Super Coppa or not, it's 1. I like the Super Coppa. I'll give it 2. But if you sack that guy, now your next manager, you're really setting a precedent here that just winning anything isn't good enough with maybe a squad of young players or a rebuild. That is not very good. I wonder if some of these rumors about Zidane being like, yeah, I flirt with Juventus, but I'd rather take France, or Allegri being like, I'm waiting for Real Madrid, or, maybe somewhere in England. Maybe they're looking at Juventus and being like, hey, this is why we're getting linked with these coaches, Gattuso and Inzaghi, because Juventus want to rebuild, but their standards are also super high. It's a really weird precedent they've set this year with managers. For me personally, I don't think you make that change for someone like Gattuso. Financially, it makes no sense. If you're going to take that debt, you better have a coach that you're okay with struggling with for a year or 2.
Well, this is the thing, too. This is another one of my reasons. Like, even if it's gasp, at some point, you have to commit at some point and just get something for the sake of stability.
Yeah.
And are you ever going to get a manager some mercados to build this season. If we can seriously say that with an experienced manager, we would have still had some doubt in this club winning the Scudetto with an experienced guy. Are we like so quick to just pull the trigger on a manager that's stepped into a fire, done pretty good in terms of him personally? I think that's not a failure of a season for Pirlo himself personally.
I mean, yeah.
For us as a club, I think it is, because we put ourselves into this scenario where we shouldn't have had a guy learning on the job. A team with our resources should not be in that position. But for him personally, he's so hard on himself and he's been critical, and as of late has just roasted himself, which I actually respect that he's taken on full accountability.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, I think for him, it's a pretty good season to get a couple trophies out of. Our experienced guys, they got bounced in the same round in Champions League. They struggled with what? Identity, getting the team to come out with passion, drive, the right mentality. They struggled with that. 2 experienced guys before. You talk about statistically, Pirlo has a lot of stat columns in his favor. He's corrected a lot of issues in terms of chances, clear-cut chances or not. The problem is our finishing percentage is actually taking a hit because we're creating much more and just not finishing. You factor in all these injuries, COVID, all that, not having one of your best players in Dybala for pretty much a whole season to recover. There's a lot going on in this season, and I think an experienced guy would have had the same struggles. So for me personally, if it's not a top-tier manager, for the sake of some stability and maybe trying to get some wheels in the right direction, maybe, just maybe, let's focus a little bit more on the Mercado, get some guys going on the project, because, I'm going to be honest, Gasparini doesn't excite me.
Yeah.
And I don't think he'd be – I get it, his ties to Juve when he was coaching the U side and whatnot, but I honestly – and, look at the Papu Gomez situation.
Yeah.
Papu Gomez is not even a third of the eagle of the guys we have in our locker room.
Well, here's a spin for you, right? So, Manchester United, obviously, they've been through a very long rebuild. Juventus don't want that type of rebuild, but they hired a manager who didn't have much experience, a little bit more than Pirlo, but not a lot, right? But their job right now for their rebuild is to try and find which of these young players are worth rebuilding around and which aren't, which is a very hard thing to ask a really experienced manager to do. If Juventus are truly committed to rejuvenating the squad and getting younger, you necessarily don't get an experienced manager to rebuild a squad. You don't get Zidane and Allegri are treble winning managers. That's what they're set up for, are treble winning teams. Unless one of them comes back out of pure love for the club, it's very hard to even attract an experienced manager at the moment. So I think that another thing that works in Pirlo's favor is that he's been gutsy to say, hey, I'm going to play young players in matches. He's handed them big moments. Kulusevski over Dybala a couple times. We've seen Bonucci kind of be relegated to the bench, that maybe an experienced manager is I don't want to do that just yet. Maybe you have to roll the dice and say, all right, let's see if this guy can keep us in the top 4, figure out which one of these players, these young players, is worth keeping, which ones are worth building around. And then, if Juventus don't get any better next season, you let them go. But I think, you have a growing squad and potentially a growing coach. You have to take that into consideration. And by the way, for the record, I'm about 50-50 on Pirlo. I like some of the things I've seen. There's also a lot I don't like. If he came back, I'd still back him. If he was sacked and we brought in a more experienced manager, I wouldn't criticize the club because I think that there's an argument for that. But I think that depending on what your goals are, experienced manager doesn't necessarily solve that.
Yeah. And here's the thing, we're gonna get really into some good shit right now here because here comes Alex. So he's saying, for me, the fact that we lost so many points against bottom feeders and the way we lost them is really a problem. Nothing to do with what we won or not. Yes, and we covered that though. Aside from a couple of those matches against the bottom feeders, the guys should have been burying. We had a lot of chances. We've barely been outplayed until the loss against Porto. And that's when the wheels that's when we really went off the rails, basically. Okay. And the wheels basically popped off the friggin' wagon there. When that loss to Porto sunk in, you saw this poor attitude for a while. Then you get that Fiorentina result. Then you get that the Benevento result. And then you get the Torino draw. Like, the team crumbled. Mentally weak. After that Porto defeat.
I think there are some bad ones. I think the start of the year is where I'm most frustrated with those ones.
But again, I have more leeway at the start of the season because it had no preseason and these guys.
No,
he's trying to work it out too, right?
I understand. When I say I have more problem with it, I don't mean it's all one way or the other. But there are some of the way we lined up in the front and the start of the season that was, total off the cuff. It was way out there. And hey, Pirlo had balls to actually try and implement something he was thinking of. Sorry, never did that. So at least he tried it. Credit there. But there were some results where you would hope that, okay, we have a really relatively new squad. We have a new coach. Maybe we just play it safe. We get those points and we start to build over the year. I think if Pirlo did that over again, maybe he'd be like, hey, I'd be a little less ambitious with my tactics and a little bit more safe. Kind of like he's been towards the end of the year at times.
Yeah.
I think that there's a couple games, like the Milan game at home. There's really no excuse for that. That it's coaching the players, There are some matches where he's waited till the 70th minute to bring in someone like Paulo Dybala or, just any substitute where you look at Pirlo and be like, you didn't read the game right. That's an experience thing where you would say, hey, maybe someone like, Sarri or Max Allegri would make those moves because they have more experience reading games like that, right? So I think to Alex's point, there are some matches where you could look back and be like, hey, that's there. I don't think that you can't rule out the injuries. With the COVID thing, with the break, fine.
Well, this is the thing. So Alex, he comes in. I don't agree with all the COVID and injuries argument you put out, Al. He goes, it holds if we are talking about match against the top of the league. It shouldn't matter against Benevento and Fiorentina. But I think it does matter because if you have guys that aren't cutting it and you're handcuffed in who you have to play, it hurts you. It hurts you. We've talked about this in seasons leading up to this in terms of competition for positions, and just getting some hunger out of these guys. And when you're battling complacency for 3 seasons, if you don't have healthy guys and fit guys and able to go next man up, if somebody's not cutting and say, hey, you're I'm not going with you or whatever, we're going to go with this guy, it changes things. And then you look towards here now, do or die scenario. He's got his full squad. He sits Dybala and Morata in a Coppa Italia. What do you think that does to the mental state of Kulusevski? That's holy shit. He's showing faith in me. Let's get going.
Yeah.
Do I think the bench is strong enough to get points out of these games against the lower sides? Absolutely. They should. But the fact that they aren't, and again, touching on the point that we actually outplayed most of those teams in those matches, there was only a couple matches out of all these drop points that we got outplayed. They should be doing better, but they aren't. So to Kanan's point, At what point do we start critiquing the players if 3 managers in a row complain about the actual players themselves?
I don't think it's a toxic locker room. I just think that this is a team that has won. A lot of these players have won 3 to 4 league titles, and what people don't realize is Juventus last year. Like we like to talk about, they won the title last year. We should have lost that title. We were Lazio were on fire. Murder were right there. After COVID, things changed, and Juventus after COVID, I mean, they looked gas leading up to that Lyon game. I mean, when we beat Sampdoria, we won that title. The reaction of those players, I mean, that was people at their edge. They were pushed right to the limit, and then they had 3 weeks, and they jumped right into another season. A lot of these guys, I think that I just think mentality-wise, and you notice that the Juventus have played better in big matches. They've been a little less focused in smaller matches. It comes with, winning a lot of games. Some of that is on Pirlo. Like, I think that you can make an argument, the way Pirlo celebrated against Atalanta or Merda or Napoli, his energy was a little bit different than it was in Crotone matches or, Benevento matches, right? This is new to him as well. Like as a player, he probably would have felt the same way. It's very new, right? So I think that you can make that argument. I understand it, but I think that it's a mental thing, and that's why they need this rejuvenation. They need these Chiesas, they need these Kulusevskis, these Demirols, these De Lits to kind of hand over the guard to someone else. Get some more hunger into the squad. One thing that Juventus did really, really well, and this is something they used to be really good at with free transfers, was find guys that had something to prove. It was, hey, we won the league 3 years in a row, but we're going to add Tevez, Llorente. We're going to add Khedira, who was written off at Real Madrid, or Mario Mandzukic, who got bounced around a bunch of clubs for better, quote-unquote, strikers, right? It's bringing in those guys, and then at the same time bringing in your Pogbas, your Dybalas, these young players. Alexandro, when he was a young, promising player, they look for guys that had something to prove. And I think that Juventus, as they go forward in the transfer market, they need to look for ambitious young players, but also veterans with something to prove.
Yeah.
We've talked in our chat before about Ronaldo, who lost his spot at Liverpool this year. I mean, he's a little bit older, but that could be a veteran that has something to prove, at the club that has something to prove for the first time in a long time. I think that plays a little bit of part into it. And this isn't a huge reason, but maybe like 10, 15%. No fans. I would like to see the Scudetto with fans. Now, I noticed there was a little bit of a pep in the players' step, having fans to boo you in the stadium when you're playing awful, or, to cheer you, to throw some support out there. Yeah. I think helps a little bit. I know that Ronaldo with fans and without fans looks like two different players.
Yeah. Yeah, it's it'll affect it for sure. And I'm just saying, and like I said, I'm kind of with you. I'm not sold on either way with Pirlo, to be honest. I'm just kind of like at the point now where I don't want to see this revolving door anymore, and I don't want us to create a position that none of the top guys want to take or touch.
Yeah.
So I just want to see them kind of commit to something and make a solid decision. And I'm not excited by guys that I don't see a big step up in, and it's just like, for me, it's got to be a very, very significant improvement if we do it at all.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, are we going to just keep, what if it doesn't work out? What if you bring in a guy who can't handle the locker room? Like, at the bare minimum, at least Pirlo has shown he can handle the locker room.
One thing I don't think that you can say about Pirlo, I know there was rumors about it, but watching this team the last couple games, the way they celebrated, this team buys into whatever Pirlo is preaching to them. I mean, take the murder game when he subbed Ronaldo off at the hour mark.
Yeah.
I mean, the guts to do that, first of all, but he didn't say a word.
Yeah.
He walked over, shook his hand, went right to the touchline. I mean, he knew. And we've seen that a couple times this year where, he might say something in passing, but it's not like it was with Sarri where he stormed down the touchline.
He left the stadium.
Even Dybala, who is notorious for being upset when he's celebrated, has toned it down a little bit. these guys, I really do think, at least lately, they buy in. I think that they like their coach. I just think that mentally they need rejuvenated. They need kind of new players. And I think
And you know what? Losing the Scudetto could be exactly what lights the fire again.
Yeah.
And what it does. I've seen it come through in the chat here. I don't want you guys to think we're not going to touch on it. Conte. So obviously rumors were circulating that Conte could potentially even tell Inter that he's taken off. Would you take Conte back and fire Pirlo? And this is for everybody that's joining us too.
Oh man, that's
Conte back. Would you?
Yeah, I probably would. I think that, look, Juventus is looking to reestablish culture. There's no better culture coach than Conte. And if we're not in the Champions League next year, like that's where Conte thrives. It's like when the expectations are low, that's when Conte gets you a title, right? The devil's advocate is obviously his history recently with Juventus. Bitter taste. Usually the sequels are never what the original was. Sometimes they are, but not usually. And he's going to ask for a lot of players, a lot of veterans. So if your project is win now, Conte's great. But if your project is take a bunch of young players, develop them in 2 or 3 years, and win then, Conte's a cancer. I mean, it'll be ugly. So
look at this scenario. Look at this scenario they're in. They go out, get him everything he wanted. Everything he wanted. They get the Scudetto. He's going to bail immediately.
Yeah.
Possibly because of the financial troubles they're in and whatnot and wages and everything like that. It's just typical Conte.
Yeah.
He's a dick. He's a fucking dick. So no, absolutely not for Conte. It's a no for me. Look at the comments coming. Canance, this is like saying your ex was crazy, even though you had 5 failed relationships. At some point, look in the mirror. Keep placing responsibility on matters, but never actually back them with signing. Oh man, that's funny. In Conte, no. From Yukio. Barat, no Conte. Moran, no. This is Barat saying sack Pirlo for only Zidane or Allegri. Mr. T, no thanks to Conte. He has been absolute trash in Europe with every team he has.
I mean, in fairness, Mr. T, we are absolute trash in Europe. So
yeah, we've been struggling. Matt Milana, no way. So this is the thing. In terms of Conte, I think it's damaged goods now in terms of the relationship.
Yeah, I don't see it happening.
It's gone. Again, for me, you get a top tier guy, or commit to somebody and just back him. At least give him one fucking Mercado.
Yeah,
like one Mercado. We can't give a guy one Mercado.
It'd be nice to actually consult the coach on like the players that he wants. That'd be nice.
Yeah.
And supposedly they did consult Pirlo for a couple moves this year. But we know in the past they've ignored Sarri and Allegri. So
yeah, who knows?
At the end of the day, if there's one thing that you take from the club situation, they need to identify what the project is, and then get a manager who not only buys into the project, but is suitable for the project. So if your project is to win the treble, which it was last year apparently, then you need to get a manager like Allegri or Zidane because they could win you the treble. But if your project is to rejuvenate Juventus and bring in a guy that plays with young players, maybe that's not necessarily, an experienced manager like of that caliber. Maybe it is. I mean, it could be Allegri. He loves the club. Like, it might be him, and that would be my pick for the record.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, not every manager, because they're associated with Juventus, wants to come and take a rebuild squad. So the Juventus needs to identify what the project is and then sell the project from there.
Yeah. And that's the thing, right? It's going to be interesting to see how it all unfolds. Of course, we've got one more final match, big match coming up this Sunday. We got to get the job done. And then, I do feel a little bit better that we have a couple lifelines. It's nice that we have multiple lifelines. It looked like we were going to go into it banking on Verona to pull some points away from Napoli. But with that shock draw from Milan and Cagliari and Atalanta and Milan going, it's looking a little bit better if we can get the job done. Will Atalanta go for it? And this is the question. Everybody's saying, well, they're already sealed. But there's a 10 million euro swing financially, and I can't see them passing that up. They're going to be going for it. I think they're going to be going for it and playing for it, regardless of if we beat them in the Coppa Italia, which some are saying and whatnot. No, not by any means. I think Atalanta is going to go for it. And Juve, yeah, I think we're going to go guns blazing. What do we expect for a lineup is a question coming in from Yukio. And honestly, I think we'll probably only see 2 changes from the lineup we got against Atalanta, to be honest with you. Maybe you'll see one at center back. You'll see Tech's going to start the final one.
Yeah.
Would you start Buffon in the final one?
Nah.
You wouldn't, eh?
No, it's done. I'm not extremely critical of Tech. I think he's made mistakes, but I think he's suitable. And I think that Buffon's last match is the Coppa Italia. Leave it at that. Don't.
Yeah.
If Juventus
it's nice to see him go out.
Yeah.
With that trophy, but at the same time, we are better with him.
We are, but I just if Buffon's the reason you can't beat Bologna, you might as well just take the team and blow it up.
I know. Trust me. Again, this goes back to Alex's comment earlier on the pod. They should be good enough. But what we see is a team that's better organized, has a little more drive when he's in there. Must-win game. I'm just saying, if there's even doubts that Tech's going to be there next season, I wouldn't hesitate to play Buffon.
Oh yeah, I mean that's all. It's all hypothetical, even.
Yeah.
Anyway,
but that's what I mean, right? Like, there's just so much, and it's must-win game. Like, I get it, but imagine Chesney lets in a howler.
Yeah.
Anyways, we move on. Defensively, I think you might see one change at center back.
Yeah, I don't think Chiellini plays the last game.
I don't think Chiellini will either. I think they'll probably ride it out on that Coppa Italia. I think Bonucci will be in that lineup as long as he's fit. If his knee's still giving him trouble, then you probably will see Chiellini. But Sandro will probably play. Quadrado and Danilo, you think, on the right side? In the middle, Bentancur and Rabiot again, or does Arthur get to start?
Bentancur suspended, so.
Oh, that's right. Bentancur's out, so Artur.
Yeah, I think. Well, if Artur's even fit, we might see McKennie in the center again.
Oh, it's getting skinny.
Yeah, so I think up front we're going to see Dybala, Ronaldo again because I think that Dybala's going to have to play because the midfield's going to be. I don't know. I think I would go 4-4-2 with Danilo, Sandro, Bonucci, De Ligt, backline. I would go Chiesa, Rabiot, probably McKinney because I don't think Arthur is fit. I mean, it makes no sense.
If he's not fit, then yeah.
Yeah, he's might not.
McKennie will probably be the play there.
Yeah, and then This is where it gets hard. I think I would do what they did with Sassuolo. If Arthur's fit, you put him in there, right? But then I'd play with the front four that they play with Sassuolo, which is Chiesa, Kulusevski on the wings, Dybala, Ronaldo up front. Go for it.
Yeah.
Get the job done.
Yeah. And I think I'm fine with that again. Bologna should be able to get that done. Fingers crossed. Let's see. Will Pinsolio be subbing in at some point or get some minutes? Final game of the season.
I wish.
What's that?
I wish.
Yeah,
I love Carlo.
maybe you'll see Pinsolio. Hopefully we got it sealed. Hopefully we got a 3-0 lead and Pinsolio can get some minutes second half there. All for it. We saw the cheering too to renew his contract in the locker room after the goal.
Why? Just give the guy a lifetime deal already.
Yeah. It is what it is, man. Pinsolio's funny because I feel like he's that guy for rival fans or whatnot that they would just hate. Like he just gets under their skin because he's like the loudest guy on the sideline with no fans there. You just hear Pinsolio and Buffon and whatnot.
It amazes me that he is the first guy off the bench almost every time.
Oh, dude!
It's very seldom this year that someone beats him to the pitch.
I'm gonna miss him and Buffon, man, sitting up there and it just.
That's one thing about the season I hope sticks around is the players from the bench just rushing the field.
Oh man,
because that is something that we didn't have. We had under Conte, that was madness, right? Allegri was a little bit more reserved. He's a little bit more competitive. Sorry, it was there after a lockdown a little bit because there wasn't any fans, but I hope they keep that. It makes me so happy when we score a goal and the team runs down the touchline.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet, man. I love that. Kits. We started talking about this new kit and whatnot, and we're gonna finish up talking on the kits. So, do you wait, or do you get it now, or do you wait to see what the roster has in store?
I'm waiting.
I'm waiting too.
Yeah,
I'm waiting too. And I asked this question, current player or do you get a legend? I see a lot of people throwing legends on those new kits.
You think about that. My ADP shirt is getting kind of small, so might need to get another one.
Yeah, and here's the thing with the legend one. So Max Juventino, who's been a guest on the show, he had a tweet saying that he can't connect getting legends on new kits because he just said I don't associate with them that, right? And I kind of get it, and I'm kind of somewhere in between. And I told him I'm kind of somewhere in between because nowadays it's not like back in the day where you felt comfortable getting a player he's going to be a staple of your club. Now it's man, you can get a jersey and that guy could be gone the next season.
Yeah,
that's just that kind of loyalty thing and that bond, but it's just gone. You can get any player and it could literally just collapse and be gone. Maybe somebody bought an Emre Can jersey and you had got to wear it for a month.
So hold on to it though. That would go for major collectible money in the future.
Yeah. So I can see it both ways, right? You get a legend, you're protecting, and not only that, but it's iconic, Del Piero again, you said, a symbol of Juve, Marchisio, you get these guys. I don't really see a problem.
Let me just say this: one of my prized possessions, I call it my lucky shirt, is the all black Jeep one from Conte's second year.
Yeah.
The back is Del Piero. I bought his kit and every one that year because I was so good at he left. I love that shirt because it's a great kit and it's got a great player on it, and I'll always wear it because it has someone on there. So for anyone on the fence, that might be a reason to get it. It's hey, it's a great kit. I don't know who I want. I'll get this guy. He's a legend. That works anywhere. So
yeah, it's interesting. And what do we got? Alex coming in here saying, yeah, legend on new kits is printing your own name on there. I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm kind of in between. Alexander brings up a good point. There aren't many current players you get attached to enough to get a kit with their name on, And that's a good point too, right? Sometimes it takes time, right? But I don't know, like as a collector too, it's kind of interesting too. And there's a great guy out there, great Juventino, Juve 1897 NO, and he's got an insane collection. We're talking about multiple of each kit, like every season, and he gets all these players in. The nostalgia. He goes back and he's got like Appia jerseys and stuff like that, and you're just like, holy smokes,
Yeah, or
so
like
many players. And it's kind of cool.
Finn's Padawin, Simone Padawin kit from last year was brilliant. Can't
That
roll
was pretty funny.
Yeah.
He got the away, I think, with the battle in there. But it's just interesting to see how people think about the kits and whatnot. For me, I think I'm going to start moving towards. I might do something where I incorporate a bit of everything. Maybe I get a legend on like one of them. The home one, I think I'll get a current player each year.
Yeah.
The away one, I'd like to get a new player each season. And then the third, by the looks of this current third one, and then the one coming up next year, I don't even know. Like, I was humming and on about even getting the damn thing.
Well, with our Halloween kit, as I like to call it, when the price slashes, I will buy it.
To be fair, it's not as bad in person.
No, but
it's actually a decent piece of streetwear.
It's Halloween colors. It's the perfect shirt for like a rare occasion. Like 10 years from now, when we have a game on Halloween or however long it is, I'll be like, I have something for this. Here it is. Like,
yeah. And you'll always have a costume every year because you could just be a smashed pumpkin on pavement, which is what it looks like.
Exactly.
No, but this new home kit, pretty classy. I like it. The 4XE even is starting to bug me less and less the more I see it. Very, very happy about the badge that we get to add to it. Hopefully we get the proper one on the right sleeve. Where does this new home kit rank for you in terms of, let's just say, this decade of dominance?
Ooh.
So right now, the one that you're wearing is probably one of the tops for me.
Yeah, this is my favorite. This is from the year after Cardiff, which would be 17-18.
Yeah, that's the 17-18 home.
Yeah, that's my favorite one. 11-12 would be next.
I gotta give a shout out to 15-16 home.
Yeah, I would say this is top 5, but like fourth or fifth.
And by the way, since we've gone on this little streak, this has been the kit I've been rocking every match. So come Sunday, I'll be out at the lake, but goddamn well what I'm going to be rocking. It's going to be this one. But this one's up there too.
Yeah.
This new home one, though, I really, really like it. Just clean. I know that some don't like that collar. But 15-16 was a brilliant year for kits. All three.
Oh, yeah.
15-16 was a brilliant year. 17-18, nice year for kits. Because the away with the yellow and blue, very, very nice. Nice year for kits. This new home one, it's up there, man. It's probably up there in the top 3 home ones for us. The 2012-13 home one was really nice.
Yeah.
Really nice too. So it's tight in there, but I think this new one gets in that top 3 for me for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely one that it's a must buy. Probably as soon as we get our squad together. I got to see if we're going to get Locatelli, because if I don't buy a Locatelli shirt, I did something wrong.
Locatelli would be definitely one I'd get on the away as a new player. I think we're all waiting for that one. It's sitting in our carts, just loaded up there.
Yeah.
See how that one goes. But yeah, man, we covered a lot. We had some great guests joining us in the chat room. It's been a lot of fun, and it was nice to celebrate a victory, another trophy, big game. Big performance, loved it. We got one more do or die to get done, and then of course see where the chips fall on the other matches that we'll have eyes Don't be afraid about Atalanta not going after it. They're going to go after it. They're going to play for it. And Milan will be without Ibrahimovic. And they've been on a skid.
Yeah.
Honestly, like they beat us, but they've been hurting.
Hey, and like Napoli, Gattuso is basically out the door. So you never know what that weighs on a team going into the match. I know they've been a good run of form, but you never know. Hellas Verona is not the typical lay down team.
Yeah, like they're a pesky side. Anything can happen. All we can do is have faith and support until the end.
Yeah.
Fino alla fine. So as always, we'll be back with a pre-match live. We're going to do it a day ahead. It'll be on the Saturday. Join us. Let's get pumped up for this final weekend of the season. I thank you all for all the support. It's been amazing. We're going to have some great stuff coming at you for content-wise throughout the off-season. I got some great guests. We're going to be tapped into the Mercado as well, and everything going on. So thank you as always for the support. Of course, see you on the Match Day Live, and then the final post-match podcast of the season, where hopefully we can celebrate reaching that top 4 and getting into Champions League, which will be crucial. Ciao tutti, till next time, Forza Juve, fino alla fine.